Welcome back to the Triggered AF podcast. It's your girl, Danny, and Miss Alicia.
Hey.
And today we are going to dive right into a conversation that I think is just so powerful. When we came up with this topic, Alicia, I was like, yes, like this is going to be so powerful, so inspiring. And the first person that came to mind when we thought about it was the young lady that I'm about to introduce. She is a YouTuber, an influencer, a super mom, a vulnerable mom. I mean, she literally bears it all on social media, especially for mothers and women who maybe want to be mothers, to just kind of give you like the raw truth. Like she doesn't hold anything back. I believe she for sure did film her most recent birth, that she just had a baby 3 months ago. You can actually purchase it, and I'm sure she'll tell you all about it. But I just couldn't think of anybody better to have this conversation about the busyness of motherhood other than Taasha Renee.
Yes.
Where's the clappers at?
Right. Thank you so much for coming on the TriggeredAF podcast. It's such an honor to have you here. I just love how you are just so open and vulnerable. You literally have a hashtag, a vulnerable mom. Yeah. And she's not bullshit. Like she is vulnerable with you and in the best and rawest way. So I just wanted to, have everybody just kind of get a taste of that and hear you speak and just kind of how you really do it. So I think why we wanted to have this conversation is because so many times, especially the modern woman, we have so many different titles, right? You're an influencer. You're like editing YouTube videos. You have 2 children. The list goes on and on. But a lot of times we forget that we're humans first, right? And that we're women before we're mothers. So who do you feel like you are at your core?
I feel like first of all, thank you guys for having me on this podcast. Amazing. I'm so excited to be here and speak with y'all. But to be honest, I've been caught up with this title for a minute, being the mom, being the wife, being everything to everyone.
Yeah.
But at the core, I want to say I am just a complete free spirit.
Ooh.
Free spirit, hands down. That's really all I can say. I think the specific thing to note is like, I'm not just one thing, because we're all multifaceted. Like I can't just like put myself in the box and say, this is me, this is who I am.
Right.
Yeah.
Hands down, like I said, I'm just me, man. I'm just doing my thing. I'm carefree. I am shameless. That's one of the biggest things about myself. Like I don't really get bothered by what someone might say about me or what someone might think about me. I'm just shameless, authentic, free.
Ooh.
I'm a risk taker.
Yes.
I'm a lover. I'm adventurous.
Yes.
And I feel like all of these things are great to have or great to know about yourself, because if you get into that role of being the mom, being the wife, and being all of that stuff, you kind of like forget about the foundation and who you were.
Yeah. Which is what I love about you, is just how it's just obvious that you fight for yourself. Like you fight to keep yourself intact. And I think it's the fight that we really actually like to see as your audience, because I'm an avid watcher of all your stories and weird things. And I'm like, I see that she posted and I see a few lines. I'm like, well, sit down.
Yeah.
But let me say this. Well, let me say this really quickly, because it sounds, I am very confident in saying that I'm a free spirit, I'm vulnerable, I can do all of these things. But in reality, like I wasn't always that way at all. Like I was the person who always said like, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. Like I don't know what I want to do with myself. I don't know where I'm supposed to be. Like I find so much pleasure in being able to share myself and let people know that you're not alone. There's a lot of people who don't really have it all figured out. But you get on social media and you see the best of everybody's life.
Right.
So here I am trying to let you guys know that my life isn't perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm just here to just be as raw and vulnerable just so people can know that they're not alone. And through that, that's the only way I'm figuring out myself, by sharing it.
God, I love that. you listen, Danny just said something about advocacy, about how you advocate for yourself and you do so loudly. And when I say advocating loudly, I don't mean yelling and screaming to the top of your lungs because that's ineffective for most parties involved. But I was watching a conversation the other day that you had with your partner. And I love partners, be they male, female, trans, gender, non-binary. I love partners who show up. Like who show up, who will listen, who will allow you to express yourself. And you were having a conversation with your partner and you were saying, I'm figuring out who I am outside of all of this. Like he has his things and you're trying to find and figure out what your things are. And for me, motherhood literally is the busiest hood. I mean, of all the hoods. Like, I'm the biggest hood that I have ever agreed to be a part of.
Who signed up for this?
Listen, had I known, I can't promise. No, I'm kidding. I love my kid. I probably would have still done it. However, being that there are still so many responsibilities that you are required, whether you want to or not, by law, to handle, how do you start to carve out time? Because it seemed like you started with a conversation, but how do you suggest to start to carve out time for yourself? How do you do that?
Just like you said, first off, it starts off with that conversation. The conversation it took a while for me to even have that conversation because I was getting so overwhelmed to the point where I was so caught up with the logistics of life. I am so focused on feeding these kids and taking care of the house and sweeping and mopping and doing all the things. And my husband would be at work and come back home. And within that, he'd come home, give me a kiss. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go play basketball right quick. And I'm sitting here like, okay, so I'm going to just stay home with these kids still. What am I supposed to do?
Simone, can I still be here?
I'm still doing this. But it got to the point where I was just really jealous of the fact that he had his own thing. And I didn't know where I fit in that. What am I supposed to do for myself? So having that conversation really just helped me to try to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. And even if I'm not sure what that thing is, I know that I have the support because I spoke to someone. I can't just let it bottle up and think that people can understand. No one's mind readers. And as creators, as women, as creating life, we can create the life that we want.
Yeah.
And we have to do something. What does that life look like? And we have to be the one to create that for ourselves. We can't sit there and want someone to appreciate us for all the work that we're doing. We have to clap for ourselves. We have to do it for ourselves because we're in control of our own happiness. So I've been trying. It's been a month since I've had that conversation. And listen, I went out for a run this morning. I'm outside, sitting in the sun. Like I'm doing all the things. I'm like, babe, you got the kids, right? Like,
okay, great.
Okay, good. I'll be right back.
How important do you feel it is to have such a supportive partner? Like I know for me, when it came to my pregnancy and just the whole process, I literally don't feel like I would have had such a blissful and amazing pregnancy if I didn't have the right partner. And from just growing up and just seeing other women and how they decided to take that journey, it doesn't look like there was a lot of emphasis put on the partner and choosing the right partner. It was just like, hey, I want to have children. We more so focus, or I heard them focus more so on the age. Like you need to have a child before this time, or you need to be married before you have a child. Like there were all these other stipulations in place, but no real concern as to how supportive of a partner you needed to have. To enjoy the pregnancy experience. And I believe a lot of women don't enjoy pregnancy and find it miserable because they don't have support while they're pregnant.
Lack of support. Listen, I feel like choosing your partner is literally ultimately what's going to stop you from being happy. Like you need to have that. The choice. Listen, we have a choice, right? And I feel like before you even get to the point of trying to have those kids, you can kind of see what type of person they're like. And listen, your satisfaction and your happiness really comes down with that first choice. And even after I've shared my birth videos, I have 2 of them online. I have my first birth video on YouTube and I have my new birth video. It's on my website. But in both of them, the biggest response that I've got was how supportive my husband was.
Oh, yeah.
Right? He was completely supportive. He was there. And on the other spectrum, I've got a lot of people who didn't have that. I've seen that in the forefront. Like I saw a birth one time and the partner was like on the other end. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be supportive. I don't know how to do this. And all of that is not helpful for the woman.
No.
Not at all. At all. No. I need support. I had this baby with you. I didn't do this by myself. Yeah. I need, and it's like the most vulnerable time of our lives. Like, I need somebody to hold me, tell me it's going to be okay. Even when I have the kid, like I need some kind of emotional support. I don't need you to just come and provide financially. No, I need that support. I need you to come and take the baby one time. Show listen, it's
more than one time. We have to have
more than one time.
Requirements. Come consistently for this child.
Yeah.
Come consistently inside of you. I need you to come consistently for this child.
Every day. I'm with this kid every day. I need you to show up.
Yeah. And I love what you said about emotional support, because I think that gets missed a lot. Like in my partnership, I was like, for me, I prepared really, really well for pregnancy. I prepared really, really well for birth. I was I did all the things, but I don't think it is possible to prepare for postpartum. Like to prepare for the after part of everything. Like I went to the hypnobirthing. I did this, I did that. I had the exact birth experience that I wanted, but I was not mentally prepared for what it took to heal after having this baby. Like I just was not ready. And I think for me, because of all the effort and time I put into my body over the years, I really was just shell shocked by how much my body changed after I had a baby. I was just like, why is my stomach looking like this? And why does it? And then like a month, and then everyone's like, oh, you just had a baby. Give it a month. Give it 6 weeks. So I'm thinking after 6 weeks, my body's just going to snap back or something, or you see these celebrities and I don't know how, but they just magically snap back. And I'm like, oh, I'm a small girl. I've been in shape my whole life. Like I have the muscle memory. I'm just going to snap back. Well, my snap is broken.
I'm still waiting for it to come back.
One of my fingers just ain't working. The snapback didn't happen as quickly. So what I'm referring to is, I'm obviously complaining sometimes about like my stretch marks on my belly and my belly being like this weird complexion that's very different from the rest of my body, and me having that extra pooch that I'd never had before. So I'm like saying to my boyfriend, I'm like, babe, I don't feel good. I don't feel like myself. I don't like how my stomach looks. I feel fat. I feel whatever. And his, men, they go to solve. They're like, well, you just had a baby. Just give yourself time. They go with the logic. And then I'm just like, that's not what I want to hear. Okay. I want you to tell me that I'm fucking beautiful and that so I even said it to him. I was like, babe, I get that you want to just solve and tell me the logic.
Sounds nice.
But I want you to come behind me and rub my belly and tell me that I'm so beautiful and still make me feel sexy. And then he was like, no, you're right. I didn't think about it like that. I'm just thinking that you want to hear the obvious. And it's like, no, I don't need the obvious. I need you to give me the thing that only you can give me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes I don't think men understand the power that they have over a woman who loves them. It's like we hand over so much of ourselves to them that they don't really, I don't even think they can even grasp it, because our love is so deep and so big. I don't think sometimes they can even fathom it, and they don't realize that you can literally just change the entire way that I'm feeling about something with just one word, one hug, one kiss. Yeah. So I like when you bring up emotional support, because I know for me, that's been a big thing that I just is really important.
And I'll say too, so like Sheryl Sandberg, she said the most important business decision you'll ever make is who you decide to be your partner. And there are a lot of people who believe and feel as though, well, marriage isn't a business. It's not this, it's not that. And it's like, in many ways, it is only because it's a full life. And inside of life comes, providing. And providing comes with resources and finances, and that's a part of business. Like y'all gonna have to have a job or have a career or have businesses. So for me, who you choose to be your partner, and for women, you two had phenomenal partners. I, on the other hand, so that people aren't saying, oh, well, it's skewed, they had great partners. Well, calm down. I, on the other hand, I had such a misaligned type of partnership.
What a great word.
Because I'm working on honoring things a little bit differently. His idea of support was to punish me for keeping her by signing up for the military, which meant that he may or may not be there for my birth. Every piece and part of me being pregnant was filled with trauma, just all the trauma. 6 months pregnant, lifting up dressers to move them because he's angry, so he wouldn't help. Putting together her dresser and her bassinet and her crib in an apartment by myself, because again, my punishment was that he was signing up for the military, so he was gone. Meeting the doctor who performed the emergency C-section because the doctors wouldn't listen to me. So met her 90 seconds before she cut into me. Like there was so much trauma around bringing my daughter into the world, like bringing her earth side, that it took me years to undo and to rework all of that. But what I did do is I created a phenomenal village, because I knew I did not have that support in who her father was. So I intentionally created a village of women who showed the fuck up. They stayed in my house. They would cook me meals. They would clean up because I had a surgery. So who was trying to clean? Ma'am, I could barely use the restroom. Nothing was getting picked up. And how I honored myself was creating a village for myself, because I didn't choose a partner that honored me. So I had to honor myself by creating a village that could honor me. So what does that look like? For me, it was creating a village, because I knew I needed support, because I knew I was going to lose my rabbit ass mind with that baby who was also allergic to my milk, which is a whole nother story. Like I said, it was just trauma. Just the entire experience was full of trauma. But I honored myself in creating a village because I knew I needed support. So how have you, and Danny, you hit the nail on the head with the emotional support, but how do you honor or how did you honor and then also continue to honor yourself throughout this motherhood experience?
Listen, your whole story just like gave me chills this entire time. Okay. Because as much as I share, there's still so many people that go through different things, right? And regardless of the levels and what we all go through, it's like we all have something that we're all going through. Yeah. And when it comes down to like the root of everything, it's like we are in control of what we accept, what we allow, and how we decide to move in the world. Absolutely. And honoring me comes, I think, in general, honoring me just means to stick to what my values were, or stick to what my values are. And most importantly, that's just always learning, always growing, just putting my family first, really and truly. Yeah. Let me see how I can even explain it. Just wanting to grow. That's me. Like that's most importantly, like I always growing. I know there's a lot of people who are just like, that's just the way that I am. I don't like hearing that whatsoever. Like I don't care. That's not how you are, but how you can change. You can change. You can change. Always. You can always change.
Yes, you can move.
I don't care how you were raised. I don't care how you were raised. You can change because how I grew up isn't the type of person that I am at this moment.
Right.
4 years ago, that's not the same person I am right now.
Yeah.
So knowing that I'm always eager to better myself is how I honor myself. Like I'm always trying to be better. For myself and set an example for my family.
And when the woman, I mean, I just feel like we give up so much of our power, especially nowadays, but like, we decide as the woman, like we decide how the house is going to be.
Exactly.
We decide how healed the family is going to be. Like for me, my honoring myself was healing myself and healing trauma so that I wouldn't pass them on to my daughter. There were so many, things I needed to heal from with the relationship with my mother, with the other woman in my family. And I feel like I had a really great upbringing, but there was obviously just inevitable trauma. And I was just like, I feel like I had this mentality that it's like, it had to be that way. And it's really hard to start to kind of recondition and rewire your brain to be like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Like just because my mother did it that way doesn't mean, because, you hear like, especially like I'm Jamaican, Tasha's an island woman as well. We hear a lot of like, oh, that's how such and such did it. So that's just how it is. Like there is it's like, if you don't follow this blueprint, you're doing it absolutely wrong. And I knew going into pregnancy and having a baby that I was going to get a lot of pushback from my family. And I was just prepared. I was just like, I'm ready like for war with y'all, because I'm not doing it the way you did it, because how you did it is not the most effective way. I'm not saying it's the bad way, but we're trying to do good, better, best. And that's not the best way to do it. So I'm going to carve my own path. You can either get on this journey and help me as my village, or I'm completely prepared to like buckle down on this fort and not let anybody in here. Like it's that serious to me.
Did you say all of those things whenever you're getting a lot of pushback and all these things, or like having those conversations?
Oh, absolutely.
Because a lot of times, like even when you're pregnant, a lot of people want to tell you, and granted, it's not coming from a bad place. They all want to put their own experiences on you and try to tell you, okay, this is the best way to do it. And I wasn't having that. Like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, that's what I did. I did the same thing. I was like when I would tell people I'm having an unmedicated birth, that was the number one thing that they like. I told I have my eldest sister. I remember it was my dad's birthday party. It's like a month before I gave birth. And she was like, oh, what's your plan? Are you going to get that epidural? I was like, no, I'm not going to get an epidural. And she's like, okay, yeah, you say that now. She goes, oh, you say that now, but wait until you start to feel those contractions, girl. You're going to be begging for that epidural, blah, blah, blah. And then she just kept going. I was like, no, I don't think so. I was like, I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to. I was like, I'm 100% positive that I'm not going to get an epidural and I'm going to have a completely unmedicated birth. And she was just like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I'm telling you, for me, like, I thought I was going to die. And she just kept going on. And I was like, okay,
your experience.
Cool. And man, when I pushed that baby out, I promise you, as soon as I saw her, I was like, so I had an unmedicated birth.
I did that.
And I just needed you to understand that that's possible. And if you ever talk to another woman again, like, please, like, there are other experiences to have. So now someone. And that for me was such a motivation to have the birth the way I wanted it to, because I needed people in my family and people who know me to know someone that with this story so they can tell somebody else. And stop using just this one narrative of birthing and motherhood. Like there are other ways to do this that people are doing. Just because you didn't do it that way doesn't mean that it's impossible for it to happen. So that was such a big motivation, and a way to honor myself was just to stay true to what I wanted and what I desired, so that I could be whatever. I could kind of be another story for somebody else to share. A positive one, hopefully.
A positive one. Because you always hear horror stories of birth when it comes to that. So it's like, it's good to actually have that experience and to be able to share yourself in that way, and to show that there are other ways. There are other ways, and it could be positive. There's a lot of positive birth stories out there.
Yeah.
I get excited when I hear the positive ones, because I know how mine was, the polar opposite. It gives me great joy to know, like, hey, this next experience that I'm going to have, I get to create it. I was super young. I was 24, so I didn't understand the power of my ability to create at the time.
Right.
And so now I'm fully aware of my ability to create, and watching those who I love, and even those who I don't even know, create and build, birth plans and stories that go the way they want and the way they desire and the way they craft. It truly, for me, is just like, okay, if she did it, I can do it. Like, okay, I know this is possible because I've seen it. And what happens many times is we take ourselves out of the creator position, and then we forget, like, yo, you can change this. You can change.
And we relinquish our power. Like, take this. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, like,
especially women, women. It's like, and there's just, like, especially, and there's just so much in place to try to snuff our power out and to try to bring us back, like try to make us like dim our lights. Yeah. It's like, it happens so much. And I feel like specifically to women, especially to Black women and women of like, it just is like, hey, you're great, but calm down.
You ain't that great now.
It's crazy. Much. And I always, and Alicia, and this was such a big motivation for us to even do the podcast, was because we felt like there's just so much that like Alicia and I would have these great conversations. It's like, these are conversations that every woman needs to hear, woman needs to have. And then when we talked about bringing guests, it's like, let's bring in other people that have other great points of views so that people can have a different perspective. And I think that's where we kind of miss it as a community of women, where we just kind of feel like, if you're not saying what I'm saying, I'm not trying to hear you. And I think a lot of times that makes us stay in a box and stay in a space that we don't necessarily want to be in, but because what somebody else is saying makes us uncomfortable, we just want to block them out.
Yeah. And that's a big thing too, because that's also too how you lose yourself. Yeah. So when you have finally lost yourself, which means, and Danny has this point where she says, we're not ever really lost, but there do become times where the path, there's so much fog, you can no longer see.
Right. Where you're disconnected.
Yeah. You're disconnected, so you can no longer see. So what are some of the ways, that a mother, especially whether you've, carried the baby or you're mothering, you're mothering a child or whatever type motherhood experience you have, what are some of the ways in which you can find or come back to yourself when you do become disconnected?
I think one of the biggest things would probably be to slow down. Slow down. Because a lot of times, like, we are so caught up with who we are and all the things that we have to do and like what's next to check off on this to-do list, everything that we have to do. And it's like, slow down.
Slow down, baby. You're moving too fast.
Slow down. Go outside, recharge in the sun, go for a walk by yourself. And I think just sitting with yourself, right? Just sitting with yourself.
Oh, great answer.
Sit down, close your eyes, right?
Yeah.
Let your thoughts run around your mind, whatever, let it do whatever it gotta do, right?
Yeah.
Breathe. Just breathe. Because we're like, we don't take time to breathe enough. Like, we don't breathe enough, right? And I think also when you're feeling lost, to be honest, turn off your phone for a second. Because you know how growing up, we're all probably around the same age, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, like, the only things that we had to compare ourselves to were like our neighbors, right? Now in this day and age, we have this social media. You log on to Instagram and you have millions of people that you're seeing. What makes you feel like you're not doing good enough, or I'm not far enough, right? And just because you see someone moving fast doesn't mean that you have to, right? Just slow down, really and truly. And I've found myself doing that to the point where it's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I see this person's moving way further than I am. How is this child looking? I mean, how is this kid behaving so properly and doing all these things? Like, no, stop comparing yourself. Slow down. Slow down and get back to yourself, because you really know what the root of the problem is.
Right. And you know what works for you. I love that.
You know what works for you.
Yeah.
Nobody else can tell you besides yourself.
I need to hear that too. So thank you. That was for me. That was for me. No, for real, because it would be like the silliest things. And I know that every mother on earth knows what mom guilt is. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I heard before I became a mother, I would hear my friends say it or talk about it or whatever, and mom shaming and all these things. And I didn't understand it until like I had my baby, and I would feel mom guilt around the silliest things that you don't even think matter or should matter. Like, I see like these babies that are sleeping through the night at like 2 days old.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I'm like, what? And then, you're in these forums and they're talking about like sleep training and they're doing all these things. And like my baby's up at like 11 o'clock at night with me.
Just staring at you like, hey mom, what we doing?
Like, hey, what's up? Hello. How are you?
And then she'll fall asleep and then she's back up at 12:30. And she's like, oh, you're still up? I want to be up too. What y'all doing? What's up? What y'all got going on out here? And I'm just like, what am I, I've had moments where I'm like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Why doesn't my baby sleep for 6 hours a night at 3 months? Like what, you start to feel these ways. And then luckily I have some kind of connection with myself. So I'm like, you know what? This is just what works for us. I'm not miserable. I'm not unhappy. My baby's not miserable, unhappy. My partner is not miserable, unhappy. It's like, this works for us. Our dynamic feels good. It feels healthy. And that's really all that matters. It's not about what it looks like compared to other people or what people say it should be. I just had to stop and take like a little second and be like, okay, but how do I feel? Am I frustrated that she's up? Am I pissed? Do I feel exhausted? Do I feel worn out? Like, is it affecting my relationship negatively? Like, like I had to take that kind of inventory. And I think once I was like, I actually am okay with it. Like if she's up at 11, like,
yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like defining what works for you. But because we have so many voices and noise that is going in and out and coming this way and then that way and then this one onto the side, like you getting it from all angles.
Yeah.
All that noise can sometimes be exhausting because it's like, and Danny, you did something great, which is what, I personally would encourage everyone to do is now, if it isn't working for you, that's something different. Make a change, figure out something else.
Right.
If you do need to sleep train, if you feel like you don't want to sleep train, if you need to hire a night nurse, which I need my night nurse to meet me. Listen, the day I either get back from the birthing center or the hospital or wherever I have just had said child, I need said night nurse.
Be there.
At the door. So them first 72 hours, I'm going to stay up with sis so we can figure out a routine. So I can see, did she get irritable when the baby started crying? So I can know who I'm leaving her with. And then I'm going to bed. Okay.
And that's fine because that works for you.
Yeah.
Amen.
Right?
Amen. Hallelujah.
That's really what it's all about. And, some people call that, like they say that's selfish.
And that's okay.
If you're like trying to figure, like if you, like even as a mom, you shouldn't even say that you're doing anything for yourself. Like that is like blasphemy. What do you mean you're going to do? You need alone time. Do you hate your child? Do you hate being a mom? Like what? It's like
sometimes yes.
Like that.
That's fine.
That truth there. I need you to say that again so I can co-sign with you.
Sometimes yes, man. Like
do you like for me, like like I wanted to, there was just a moment that I had one day where I was just like, I need like a second. Like I love this. I'm enjoying this thoroughly. This is like a dream come true in so many ways. But like I want to go like shake my ass somewhere. Like I want to party. I like party still. Like I am not old as hell. Like I like to be out. I like to dress up. And like I just was like, I just threw it out there to my partner. I was like, babe, like there's this party coming up that I love. Like, can we go? And he like booked it within like minutes, right? And I was like, thank you for like supporting that and not making me feel bad. But even up to the moment I walked out the door to go to the party, I felt like I was being selfish. I was like, damn, I'm leaving my child to go to a party. Like, is this bad? Is this okay? No. Is it it's like, why do I even still want a party? I thought once I pushed the baby out my vagina, like all my desires of partying would just vanish. Because that's what people think. Because now you're a mother.
You're a mother. You can't do all of that.
Mothers don't dress like that. Mothers don't talk like that. Mothers don't do this, and that. It's like, well, how do you think I got the damn baby?
I wasn't praying.
Bumping and grinding. The hell?
So for you, Taasha, do you think being selfish can be helpful or useful especially for mothers?
For sure. Absolutely. However, I am still in that process of trying to disconnect myself to an extent. I haven't found that perfect, comfortable spot yet. I have the support to the point where my husband's like, yeah, go do your thing. And I'm out the house and I'm like, okay, can I turn back around? I don't want to do anything
I
but
was
stay
just
with my
kidding.
kids.
I was just kidding.
I don't want to do it. I'm fine. It's fine. I left for 2 seconds. I can come back home now. Right? But I think even in the aspect of being selfish, it doesn't necessarily have to be me by myself the entire time. It could still just be me taking care of myself, but even having my kids there, seeing me taking care of me is perfectly fine.
Just doing
Like I
something for
enjoy
you.
just doing something for me. Like I value presence. Like we can be in the same space, but we can do two completely opposite different things. Like you don't have to be up to my neck all day, every day. But I just find that it's helpful for my kids to be able to see me taking care of myself because that's the only way they can avoid, I guess, like people pleasing when they get older or feeling like they have to do everything. I just want to let you know, mommy needs a break right now, and I'm just gonna stay in my little section. You go over there and play, right?
But how do you do that? How do you do that without feeling bad? You know, like
listen, it's not all the time. Even if it's 10 minutes, I'm not saying that I'm gone all day and I'm completely neglecting my kids, right? It's one moment out of the time. You need to have that time for yourself in order to be able to, you know how they say you got to fill your cup up, right? When you fill your cup up, I need to be able to pour from an overflow, right? I need to be able to fill myself up because that's the only way I'll be able to be a better mom. Because if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't have that selfish time for yourself, next thing you know, you irritable, you angry at every single tantrum that your kid just poured out, like you're just miserable.
Yeah.
And the only way that you can effectively parent or effectively try to be a better example for your kids is to have that time for yourself. So no, it's not selfish at all because choosing me means I'm choosing you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You just said something, and I want to say it was Ayanna Van Zant, but I might be misquoting who. I'm so sorry in advance. If y'all know who it is, y'all DM me and let me know. But I believe it was Ayanna, and she was just saying that what's in your cup is for you, but what you pour out is for others, and you make others violate not only themselves but violate you when you start to pour out of what is meant for you to pour into them. It's not fair. You are making them violate a universal law because you won't honor the fact that you have to fill your own cup up first. It is a very real thing. Put your own oxygen mask on first, because here's the thing. I don't care how much you love said baby. If you put on the baby's oxygen mask first and then you pass the fuck out, guess what? Now said baby don't have a mama because you couldn't follow the one rule.
The one rule, take care of yourself.
Take care of you first. You have to be your MVP, because if the baby they breathing, but your ass is not. And so now they have lost the one thing that was supposed to walk them through this journey because you couldn't obey the number one rule of taking care of you first.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like. If it's spending a little extra time to look for the organic fruit versus the fruit that's full of, all the pesticides with the GMOs and the this and the that and the third. If it's, rearranging, if you don't have a partner who's there with you to help take care of said kid, that is not a fucking excuse. Build a tribe of people who you trust. And don't tell me people aren't trustworthy. That's the energy you are putting out. And you need to put out some different energy so you can bring in some trustworthy folks.
Right.
My life doesn't work without my tribe. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And my misaligned partner is rarely ever there. And when I say rarely ever, I really do mean rarely ever. But because I have built such a phenomenal tribe, I get to go on vacation by myself because I need to bring myself back to me. And I get to have the conversation with my daughter that's saying, hey, mommy's in a space to where she's feeling really confused and really frustrated. So I need to go away so that I can come back and be a good mom for you. And she'll say, yeah, mommy, you work so much. She's like, you deserve breaks. They
understand.
They
understand.
Have the conversation with them.
Exactly, let your feelings out and let them know this. I'm struggling with this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I like, and that's something that, I mean, especially our generation, like mothers they didn't say that. Like, I think I've seen my mom cry like 3 times in my entire life.
You better see.
And I think two times was at a funeral. I'm pretty sure. Like, it's like, hello, like, what is, like, are you okay in there? And now that we're older and she's more open with us and she talks to us about things and we're like, oh my God, is this who you really like? Now I get to see her as a woman. Yeah. And it took me seeing her as a woman in order to forgive her.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why a mother would do certain things, but I damn sure understand why the woman did those things. And it sometimes is so difficult sometimes to separate the two because you feel like they're one and the same. Like we just feel like our mothers just like drop from the sky and we're like, hey, I'm a mom.
I'm here for you.
They were little girls with dreams and hopes and heartbreak and trauma. Yeah. And there's so many other things that they were before they were mom. Right. Yeah. So now having conversations with her and she'll like tell me about a time that I remember vividly and who she was and what she was experiencing. I was just like, what? Wow. You did what? You were trying to do what? And I can't, and the strength that it had to take for her to still try to like come home like, hey.
And be okay. Because back then you couldn't have conversations about your feelings.
No.
If you were the family pedophile, nobody talked about it. If so-and-so was getting whooped on and beat on by her husband, well, maybe she'll walk lighter. Bitch, there's no way to walk lighter around somebody who's trying to knock your head off.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can fly and they still gonna swat you with their fly swatter. But they weren't allowed to have the conversation. It was literally like that generation of women. And it really does break my heart because it helps me understand my mother too as a woman, but they weren't allowed to connect to their feelings. When we talk about being disconnected, that generation of women was some of the most disconnected women around. And so yes, they were toxic as fuck, not all of them, but many of them, because they were disconnected as fuck. So yes, they would go, they would read their Bible or read the Quran or pray to whomever they were praying to, the monkeys or the goats or the whom the fuck ever. And we're disconnected as fuck.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's like, there's a lot coming out now about how children can feel how regulated your nervous system is.
Yeah.
So they are now showing that a child can feel your energy and your frustration. Like say a child is throwing a tantrum. And we know that when I was a kid and I threw a tantrum, I got bopped upside the goddamn head.
Exactly. I'll give you something to cry for. Exactly.
Right. Right. And that was that somehow was supposed to stop me from crying when you threatened me to tell me that you were going to give me more reasons to cry. I was supposed to somehow go...
And I'm not crying anymore.
And I don't know why when you see a child go, you don't realize that their chest is tight and they're having an anxiety attack.
Yeah.
They're trying to pull it all in.
Help me.
Oh my God. Yes. And the reason
that's a problem.
Listen, but the reason they feel you so much though is because they're still very connected to source.
Yes. And they're connected to you. They're connected. We're all connected, right?
It's like a two-way. It's like a two-way thing. They're connected to source, and then they're also connected to you. So they feel all of your energetic movements.
Everything.
They feel it because they're connected to you, but then they're also connected to source. So they're open. They are the most vulnerable population because they are still very connected to source. They haven't had all the experience, some children, they haven't had all the experiences that disconnect them in this life from their source. So because they're so connected to source and also still so very connected to you, you literally are raising trauma-filled kids because you won't go sit on somebody's couch or go to an energy specialist to walk your way, talk your way, and work your way through your shit.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so excited about like our generation now, because we're the real ones doing all of the work.
Work.
But like we're really doing the work. And even when you said that, Danny, about like your mom, like I'm still in that phase of trying to get her to open up more. Like she's here right now. She's actually leaving at the end of the month, but she's been here since I had the baby.
Mm-hmm.
3 months. Sis has been here for 3 months. Thank you so much. Like, I'm waking up and the dishes are washed. And I'm like, thanks. I don't have to worry about cooking because this is cooking. However, the nurturing part, the part where I feel like I'm loved, I don't really get that.
Right.
Like,
but in her mind, she probably thinks
in her mind, she's doing it. She's doing it.
Because she's making acts of service.
I'm providing.
Yeah,
she's providing.
Our mothers didn't give two shits about the 5 love languages.
How you felt?
But your feelings, fuck your feelings. Did I feed you like that?
That's my mom too. She worked 2 jobs, so I provided. I made sure you had whatever you wanted. So
I did what I was supposed to do. Yeah.
Like,
what do you want?
I pass with an A.
Can I have a hug?
Maybe can you tell me I'm doing a good job? Like, you know, it's crazy how now we're doing all the work, all the inner work, right? Because not to take away the work that they did, but now we're entering a new phase where we're doing the inner work to heal from some of those things. And I think that we are doing something so powerful because we're healing the past and we're healing the future. And I think that's what makes it such it creates such a shift because it's like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to heal you and I'm going to heal me. And then I'm going to heal these children because as I heal, I see my mother heal in different ways, or I see that we can have a different kind of conversation that we would not have been able to have if I didn't do some kind of work on myself to try to meet her where she's at. Because that's where it gets hard with your mom, is like trying to kind of understand how they think, because how they think is just so opposite of how you think. And you're like, okay, I'm just trying to understand. It's like a different language. Like it might as well be a different language.
It's like Latin.
Yeah.
It's like Latin.
It's hard to understand.
Yeah.
Like recently, I don't know, right when I had my son, it's crazy. As soon as I pushed him out, because I had an unassisted birth with my son at home. It wasn't planned, nothing. I just happened to go into labor and be at home and had no clue what I was doing. And I pushed the kid out on my bed. My mom was there. And here I am in shock. I'm like, Mommy, I just had a baby on my bed. You know what the first thing she told me? She's like, stop crying. What? I just pushed out this kid on this bed. And the first thing you're going to tell me is to stop crying?
Oh.
I'm just like,
she didn't play. Yeah.
I've never seen her cry. She's never been in tune with like these emotions. Right. And I knew obviously for this birth, on my birth plan, one thing that I don't want my mom there. And immediately I just cut her off. I don't want that there because that was not supporting me at all.
I was, I may get in trouble for saying this because I don't think anybody knew this, but that was not that specific thing, but I was very clear as to how I wanted my birth to go. And not that they're there with bad intentions. And I think that's why they may get offended where you may say something like that. Like if I were to my mom, like, hey mom, I just don't really want you there. It's like, it's not, my birth ended up happening so fast that like my process quickly, like it just didn't work out that way.
That's fine.
However, if I were to tell my mom, hey mom, I don't really want you there, she would have been so offended at that notion that I don't want her around in such a time. But there's just so much happening in that moment where the energy is so delicate. And so fragile that one thing throwing me off changes the entire course of my birth.
It can make the labor a lot longer.
It can make it harder.
Make it harder and longer.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Like, I just wanted to be me and him. We're on the same page. Like, that's just really what I wanted. So I totally understand that. And I would like to encourage women to be very clear what you want, and don't be afraid of offending anybody, because it's literally a matter of life and death.
And it's not about them. Like, I feel like it's okay to be selfish when literally the closest you come to death is bringing another human earthside.
Yeah.
Like just the mental anguish, the depth of pain. It is hard for me to focus on agreeing with my body to say this pain is just because my body, my physical man is trying to protect itself while my spirit man is trying to usher in life.
Right.
So if I also have to cut myself into a third to manage your fucking feelings and emotions,
and it could be something so simple. It could be a comment. It could be a look. It could be just the energy. Like I remember when I went to like talk to, I think it was at the birth center or maybe in the hypnobirthing class, one of them, where they were talking about how they've literally experienced labors where it was just getting delayed. Like for some reason, like this person was there and they would ask a specific family member or someone to step out of the room and the person would come in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Because
energy don't lie, man.
It's that serious, guys. Like it's not a game. Like it's that real.
It's a spiritual experience. I don't care what you believe in. Yeah. Bringing a soul earthside is a spiritual fucking experience.
Yeah.
So if I'm having to fight you and them, and if you also aren't centered, the level of pain, the reason women will pass out or throw up or do all the things is because your physical man is in shock because it cannot maintain. Like if you think you're literally bringing a soul into being.
I was just saying this last night. I was like, do you mean a whole human?
A whole human. So yes, that time to be protected and sacred. And if you don't want nobody but you and God there, whatever God you decide you're going to serve, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. As long as it's your choice.
Not your choice.
But now that brings me to like one of our last questions too, is what is something you wish you would have known about yourself before motherhood? Like, what would that be?
To be honest, I don't want to say it's a little cocky. Wish I knew about myself. What I wish I knew about myself before being a mom was how much I'd embrace it or how good I would be at being a mom. Because prior to actually embracing this role, I wanted to be a mom for years. I was the 15-year-old out here trying to get pregnant with my boyfriend. Listen.
Okay.
I was, don't even ask. That was me just out here. I want to be a mom. I don't care. I don't care who the daddy is. I just want to be a mom.
Yeah.
Right. And outside of wishing I knew about myself, I just wish I knew how sacred motherhood is. Because if I knew how sacred it was, I wouldn't just be trying to have a baby with any and everybody. And everything just happens divinely in the way it's supposed to happen. And there's a reason why I didn't get pregnant with all my previous exes. And it only happened after the healing journey that I was on, that I didn't realize how well I would be as a mom, to be honest.
That's awesome.
I wanted to figure out like what my purpose was. As many times as I've shared, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know what it is about me that would, like, I always wanted to be an inspiration to people, but I never knew what I could do to inspire anyone. But now I realize, like, had I known back then that my inspiration would come from motherhood, like even you guys finding me on this podcast, is like just being a mom. I'm fully embracing it. And I just didn't know like how amazing I would be at being a mom.
I love that. And just so that you know how inspiring you were like the last little catalyst that I needed to decide that I was going to switch from a hospital to a birth center. Like, I think I found the page, I was maybe around like 35.
Yeah, you're almost due.
Right? Yeah. And I was going through your page and I saw that you had the spontaneous home birth and then you were planning a different birth. And I just remember being like, wow, like this is amazing.
Like, do this. Yeah.
I was like still going to go to the hospital, but I was like, I'm going to advocate for myself. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I think I even DM'd you. I was like, what was your experience? And then you told me, you were like, look, I think you should switch. Like, it was amazing. It was a great experience. Everybody has their own thing, but that's what it was for me. And I just remember being like, if Taasha can like do this, I can do this. Like,
exactly.
And I think there was like an actual like video on your page of you pushing out your first child in the bed. And that started like, that was like the click. I was like, wow, like she just had a baby at home with her man. Like there's nobody there.
It is possible, literally.
He was coming out in the bed and I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And then I think like that next week I went to my chiropractor and I was just talking to him and I was like, hey, like I don't have any fear around birth, but I have fear around giving birth at the hospital. Yeah. And he was like, I was like 36 weeks at the time, 37 weeks. And he was like, so change, so switch. And it was just like you and like these other accounts that I follow. And it was just like, we talk so bad about Instagram and the ways that it makes us self-conscious and weird. But there are so many powerful things that have happened in my life because of Instagram. Like because of what I've been able to witness and because what people decide to share on that platform, like you sharing that literally helped me have the birth experience that I want. So I want it. So just so you know how inspiring, it's like, it's life-changing how inspiring you've been to, I'm sure, so many women.
And that's also, listen, I appreciate that so much. However, too, it's like so important to filter out what you see on social media.
Right.
So how you found all of that, like it really all matters, or it really depends on what you allow yourself to see. I don't follow too many people on social media because I don't want to be that person sitting here scrolling all day. Like, what am I sitting here looking at your life for when I can go and create my own?
Right.
And even when I want to create my life, I want to see I want to see what I want to see on social media. I'm not going to sit here and be like, no offense to the shade room, but you see the shit, I had to unfollow them. There's way too much going on in there. I don't care about other people's life. I don't care.
Right.
I really don't care. But if you focus on yourself and what you can do, then a whole bunch of opportunities can open up after that. Just focus on you. We all have our own different paths. And granted, we can end up at the same destination, right? But there we all have our own paths to follow. Just stay in your own lane. Mind your business.
Mind your business.
Mind your business. Stay in your lane.
And on that note, we dropping the mic because mind your business. I love that. Listen, mind your business.
Mind your business.
Yeah,
really.
This conversation, it enriched my soul. The ability for mothers and women to tell the truth, to advocate for themselves, to find that selfishness is not a bad thing. It actually is what allows you to not only put your own oxygen mask on first, but allows you to best serve your families and your partners and your children. That alone is just everything. It's like the fuel in the very, very, very functional car. No matter how functional, it don't work without gas. It was like gas to the car. So I want to thank you so much, Taasha, for joining us and for being open. And I know this was your first podcast, but I must say A+.
Right, you're a pro.
Thank you, darling. Thank you. You guys made it very easy for me to talk because I'm comfortable, man. Like, I'm just comfortable. We're all mothers. We're all in this together. And I feel like that's the most important thing for us to share and let people know that we're not alone. And the only way that someone can know that they're not alone is for us to be able to be open and share our truth. Share everything that you're going through, because that's the only way someone will be able to see themselves and be like, you know what? I ain't crazy. I'm not the only one that's crazy. My kid isn't the only one that's tripping out. Like, you just need to be able to see yourself in someone else. And
and it removes so much shame. It removes the shame from it. You know, like,
and to be perfect.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not this perfect person. You're not this perfect person. Like, we have so much more in common than we have differences. You know, it's like taking that approach changes your whole perspective on humanity, and just really like what the media portrays as like how horrible the world is. I can't watch it. It is literally a trigger. AF for me. I can't watch. I just can't.
I don't watch it. No.
Yeah, it's just too much, because my reality and what I really experience is not that.
It's not like that.
I have so many wonderful people all the time. Like, you know, like I have great conversations. I like meet people that are really kind in the grocery store. Like, there's so many other things. Not saying I'm in like a utopia, but I'm just saying that sometimes the reality is so different from what's portrayed. So it's like, it's a beautiful thing to just see 3 Black women that can come together and say like, hey, this is our experience. This is how we relate. Is there anybody else out there? Because we want to connect. We want you to feel like you're a part of a community, because you are.
Yeah.
Because you are.
And here's the thing. It's okay if you're in a utopia. You know why? We are creators and we create what we want our reality to be.
Exactly. That part.
So it's okay if you're in a utopia, because I am. I don't care. Even when I look at some things and I'm like, damn, I wish that could be better. I have so much love. Like, I get overwhelmed by the amount of love I have in my universe. So even when I'm overwhelmed or stressed out because of whatever it is I've chosen to wrongly focus on, and not wrong, but I've chosen to remove the focus from what it's supposed to be. It's like, for me, I am in a utopian type experience where I'm walking through life in the physical, but I am operating mainly in the spiritual. And that for me means I get to create whatever, however, and then I get to usher it into the physical. So utopia is what I want, my version, and you can have what your version is. And you don't have to be ashamed about that and stop waiting necessarily for the other shoe to drop, because it doesn't have to. You can experience the fullness of life in every arena of your life if you decide and make that choice, and then focus all of your energies on what that looks like.
Right. And that makes you show up in the world different. It makes you a better person, a better woman, a better mother. And just like Taasha said, it's like, if you are not okay,
nobody will be okay.
Nobody's okay. So you think you're helping everybody by being this self-sacrificing person.
I can do it all by myself.
No, which is hard for some of us, right? I know we have to wrap up, but this is like, that's so important what Taasha just said. Like this, like, I can do it. This, like the independent woman trope follows us all the way through motherhood. And you just feel like, well, since you can't do it, I'm going to do it. And then you get mad at your partner for not doing more, when every time the baby cries, you grab the baby instead of letting him learn how to calm the baby down. Let him go make the bottle. Let him do his part so he can learn. How is your partner going to learn what to do if every time something happens, you feel like you're the only one that's enough or equipped to do it, right? I know that's a struggle for me, where I'm just like, okay, just let, like, the baby's crying. I'm going to turn this way and I'm going to let
around. Just turn around, close your eyes. Turn around,
it's not happening. It's like, everything is fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Like for mothers who, and this is something I went through too, so I'm not judging y'all, who were like, well, I don't trust their father or my partner, depending on, who you've had a child with the baby. And this is a huge thing for me. And I was just like, you know what? You're never going to have a life if you can't figure out how to trust your instinct and that you chose a capable person to help you in caring for this child.
Yeah.
And if the person that you chose, who is the bio, who assisted you in creating the child, is not the person that's there, trust yourself again that you can build a tribe that can help you to still get back to you after you have become we.
Yeah, it's awesome. Trust. Yeah, trust. Yeah, that's really what it boils down to. So Taasha, thank you so much. Where can we find you? Where can we follow you? How can people stay connected? Give us all the things to keep up with you.
All right. So I am Taasha Renee on Instagram. Taasha is Taasha, Renee, Renee. Don't forget the first A. There's 2 A's in Taasha. So Taasha Renee. I do have a private Instagram. It's A Vulnerable Mom. And on that page itself, I share more than I don't share on my actual Taasha Renee page. So it's only women on there. And I go through healing questions and a lot of different things on my A Vulnerable Mom page, just for moms, where we feel it, face it, share it together. That's my little tagline on there. I'm on YouTube, Taasha Renee, but Taasha Renee is really the main page. You can find me with all my raw, unfiltered shenanigans.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, our Trigger Happy family, we will see you soon.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Triggered AF. Remember, don't be consumed by your triggers. Confront it and then work to release it. Whether you leave us more triggered than you came, or you're feeling like you've been open to a new perspective, our hope is that you've grown. Make sure to share this episode with a friend who's trigger happy and tag us while you're listening. We can't wait to hear from you. Until next week, pull it together, girl.